How's it going? We're going to see if we can work on getting our swarm traps ready. It's about that time of year where we like to try and put them out. I think it is the 27th of February, I think, right now. Anyways, we are out here. I'm going to try and grab a couple of frames from last year that we had to clean up when we lost our other hives. I think that's all shallows and mediums in there, except for those two. So we may have to grab a few off of the shelf here. But we're going to try and set a couple of traps up this year. See if we can catch a couple of swarms. Hopefully, if our remaining hive that we have ends up swarming, we can catch it. But mainly, we want to try to catch wild swarms to build our numbers back up, since we lost all the hives that we had last year. Let me get in the building and we'll be right back. All right, we are back in the building here. These are the frames that we just grabbed from outside. Bring those in, let them dry up a little bit. Got to clean them up some. Here are two of our swarm traps. One of these, the one on top here, has been in storage in one of our little Rubbermaid buildings that we have. The one on the bottom there has basically been sitting outside on the ground since last year. We just put these things together with just, I think it's all 3/8 plywood. So we just put a little coat of paint on them, try to help the elements out. These are, I think, 3 years old now. Yeah, like I say, it's just out of cheap material we had on hand just to try to get them built. We've definitely had some bugs working in this one, and this, like I say, is the one that was in storage. Let me grab you real quick and I'll show you the inside. You can see there's not a whole lot to it. It's just two deep boxes, and just got the little shelves on the front and the back for the frames to sit on. Somebody way smarter than me figured out internal dimensions for these things that the bees tend to like, what they look for after they send the scouts out to find a new home. But yeah, we're going to try to get these cleaned up and get them ready to hang this weekend, hopefully. So I will try to clean these up a little bit and get back with you, and we'll show you what some of the frames look like inside. All right, so we've got a little bit of cleaning done. Got a lot of the spider webs off, all that. Some of the staining you can see in the bottom. I mean, that's just kind of normal. You'll have that even on ones that are in storage all the time. The outside's still, kind of dirty looking, but when honeybees go out into the wild trying to find a new home, most of the time they're finding holes in trees and stuff like that. So their homes are usually exposed to the elements, and they're used to cleaning them out. So I started to clean up the frames, and I came across this one. This is one of the ones that was in our hives last year. And if you look right here, you can see these little patterns on the frames. When our honeybees decided to leave, this is what happened afterwards. And if you can imagine, the honeycomb was even with these two pieces of wood here, and wax moths got in it because it was very weak hive inside at the end. So this is where they burrow their little tunnels under the wax to lay their eggs and go through their phases of life when they eventually turn back into a moth and go look for other honeybee hives, I'm assuming. So we had to kind of scrape everything and clean them up but that's kind of what you're left with sometimes when you have a dead out, or when the hive absconds and just packs their bags and leaves, for lack of a better term. I think we've got another one here. So you can see here too where we've got some wax moth trails, and all this extra wax that you see on here, I think, is where we had it in some black contractor bags, and we left them out in the yard in the sun to get really hot. And the wax from some of the other frames melted and dripped down on this one. But this is another one. You can see some of the white powdery stuff and some of the trails where the wax moths got in and did their thing. And while wax moths are a bad thing, or they're looked at as a bad thing, they only really get in a hive when the hive gets weak, whether it's from disease or pests or whatever, and the hive can't fend for themselves anymore. Then the wax moths move in, but part of their natural life is to clean up after honeybees have left. So they'll go into trees and other areas where honeybees have gone in and set up a hive, and then they may just leave and go to a better place, a better home that they find, or they may swarm and leave the remaining colony too weak or whatever. But the wax moths basically go in and clean up the house and get it ready for when a new hive moves in. So wax moths are bad if they get into a hive, but usually if they're in a hive, the hive is probably weak to start with, and they were not able to fend them off. So as bad as it can be to get in a hive and see that, just know that they are not the cause of it. They may lead to the ultimate demise, but the hive was already on a decline anyways before the wax moths got in there. At least that's my opinion. Anyways, I'm going to get these frames cleaned up, and we'll drop them down in one of these traps, and you can get a look and see what they look like inside with the frames in them, and we'll be back. All right, and we're back. We've got the boxes cleaned out as much as we're going to anyways. The honeybees do a pretty good job of cleaning up anything that's left or anything that they don't like. So we just get the majority of the loose stuff out of there, let them clean it up. Usually when they go find a new home out in the wild, they will do a good bit of cleanup in those as well to get it ready to suit them. We've got frames in this one now. This is kind of how they're going to sit in there. And I'll bring you in a little bit closer, but that's kind of how they sit in there when we are waiting on a swarm to get in. So they've got space in between each frame that allows the bees room to move between frames. They'll climb up and over or go under as well. And then when they get their comb built out in between them, the area from the foundation here to the next foundation will get tighter, but they still leave that amount of space on their own so that they have room to get around. We've got this is an old frame that came out of Wendy's granddad's box that we salvaged, and we had to do a good bit of work on it where the wax moths had gotten into it many years ago, and they had put these little tunnels we were looking at, or the divots we were looking at, all through the box on the frames. Really had done a number in there, so we had to do a good bit of work. Actually, Wendy did the majority of the work cleaning that up and getting it ready, and we still use it. I think we've used it the last 2 or 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, so we've got them mostly cleaned up. There's still some staining on them from just sitting outside, or moisture getting in them, that kind of stuff. So hopefully we can get these set up and up in a tree. Maybe we'll be lucky enough to catch some wild swarms or a swarm out of ours, but they'll have those 5 frames in them. And then we'll take these little pieces of feed sack or corn sack material and put it on top of the box and use that kind of as an inner cover. We use those because we can actually spray lemongrass oil, or I think we have some Swarm Commander. There's a couple other manufacturers of honeybee lures, but we'll spray that on the top of the inner cover. And then the inner cover also helps so that once the bees do get in there, they don't stick your outer cover to the box. So it's a lot easier to get the cover off when you get ready to transfer them over to a permanent hive body, hopefully. So that's what we've got. I've got to round up some more frames to put in that box. Got a couple over here I still need to clean up, and we will come back when we're ready to try to hang one of them. So hang with us. I'll get these finished up and we'll try to get one hung.